My name is Claire Bingley. I'm the Regional Manager working at the University of Melbourne, working with students, future students who are in Thailand. I suppose the format of tonight's session, I hope to give you a really brief overview of the university, give you a bit of general information that might answer a lot of your questions. So at the moment, the University of Melbourne is ranked #1 in Australia and #32 in the world. We're really proud of our national and international rankings. We've got quite a large international student community. So about 65,000 current students studying at our Parkville campus. And we have about 10,000 academic and professional staff on campus as well. So quite a large community in the northern part of the city. As I said, it is very international, multicultural. So the university community strongly reflects what the city of Melbourne is like. So the city of Melbourne, about 50% of the people who live in Melbourne were born overseas. And at the University of Melbourne, about 42% of our students are international students, and they represent about 130 different countries. So our classrooms are very multicultural and diverse, and, you know, I suppose the extracurricular activities and the lifestyle in Melbourne and on campus is a real mix of culture and diversity. So the type of food that you can have, the festivals and cultural activities, you know, you really will have quite, I suppose, a truly international experience, and you'll experience really being a global citizen studying and living in Melbourne. Another really important ranking, I think this is actually the most important ranking and the one that I'm most proud of working at the University of Melbourne, is the Graduate Employability Ranking. Now, I suppose, you know, there are lots of reasons students decide to pursue further studies, but I think the main reason is to acquire the skills and knowledge that will allow you to move into a profession, into a job that you're really passionate about, that will reward you with job satisfaction and an appropriate salary. And this ranking, the Graduate Employability Ranking, demonstrates how well the University of Melbourne is preparing our students for life after graduation. So how career ready our students are, not only academically, but with the graduate attributes that our industry partners are looking for. So our most successful students find a balance between their academic studies and giving back to the university community, making contributions, volunteering, participating in extracurricular activities, being connected with alumni and their peers and industry partners, developing professional skills, doing internships and gaining work experience. So our students that strike that balance and maximise all of the opportunities the university has on offer, they're the most successful students, and they're the ones that are employed, you know, very rapidly once they graduate. And in lots of cases, many of our students are actually employed before they finish their degree, which is really fantastic. A little bit about the Melbourne Model Curriculum. So our curriculum structure is very international. It aligns with the very best universities all around the world. I suppose our undergraduate degrees start out with a 3-year bachelor's degree, and they have a component of, I suppose, major and depth of study, and then a breadth component as well. So the Melbourne curriculum really encourages our students to have a multidisciplinary education, and that is essentially preparing them really well for a 21st century career. So we know these days that statistically, the generation coming through high schools and university degrees, they will tend to have up to 17 jobs in their lifetime and between 5 and 7 careers. So it's really about thinking about utilising the curriculum around skill acquisition, having multiple specialisations, complementing your core study with breadth subjects, taking the time to make sure that you're making the right decision in terms of which direction you want to head into. So I suppose what underpins that is the ability to have an undeclared major when you apply and even into the first semester of study, and then possibly doing some master's level study to further specialise in that area that you have discovered or confirmed in your mind that that's where you want to take your career. So a bit of an overview about our undergraduate programs. As I said, they're all 3 years in duration. We have quite a small list of programs. They're all on this slide. So we don't have hundreds and hundreds of courses. So we have quite a small, succinct list of undergraduate degrees, but we have a huge number of majors that can be chosen. So I suppose it's all in the semantics and naming conventions, but there are over 100 disciplines that you can study at the University of Melbourne. But what makes my job a little bit difficult sometimes is that it's not always obvious about the area of study that you could choose. So some of our students, taking psychology. So Nina's taken psychology, but you can't see a Bachelor of Psychology there. But a psychology degree is offered within the arts program, the science and the biomedicine program. Computer science is something that's really popular. Computing and IT and data science, those programs sit within our Bachelor of Science. Engineering also sits in our Bachelor of Science, as well as our Bachelor of Design and Biomedicine. So where a major is offered in multiple degrees, those subjects will be the same. So psychology taken in arts and psychology taken in science, the psychology subjects are exactly the same, but they will only make up about 10 or 11 subjects out of the 24 that you will study in your 3-year degree. So it's your electives and your breadth subjects that will change depending on which degree you choose to enrol in. So if you're a Bachelor of Arts psychology student, your electives will be humanities and social science. Whereas if you're a Bachelor of Science Psychology, your electives will come from the 41 other majors on offer in the Bachelor of Science. I hope that makes sense for everyone. But a 3-year undergraduate degree, you need to choose at least one major, but a lot of the degrees have the option for a double major. The ones with a little asterisk there, so arts, commerce and design all have the option for a double major. And there's also the option to do concurrent diplomas. So this is all about adding strings to your bow, making you, extra employable. So really enhancing the options that you'll have once you graduate. So along with one major or 2 majors or a major and a minor and your breadth subjects, there is the option to do a concurrent diploma as well in one of these 4 areas. So a concurrent diploma usually takes 4 years alongside the bachelor's degree, but can be short to 3.5 years with some careful course planning, maybe some summer and winter subjects or something like that. But if you are interested in complementing your core study in your bachelor's degree with one of these areas, then this is an option as well. And just coming back to the curriculum design, so quite a lot of the professional qualifications, we don't have direct entry for those. So we don't have perhaps direct entry medicine, or we don't have direct entry law. These professional qualifications require a bit of postgraduate study to finish off that qualification and get the accreditation needed to work as a professional in that area. So here's some examples of some of the popular professional careers. So at the University of Melbourne, engineering is a 5-year pathway. As you can see, the masters can be taken with business. So engineering and business, very, very popular subject set that really complements each other really well. So an engineering student who has that core set of skills in civil engineering, who then goes to their prospective employer with business skills as well, project management, finance, some human resource management skills, that student who's got that fantastic combination of subjects is going to be much more employable, much more well-rounded and experienced for that prospective employer than an engineering student who's just done 4 years and just got their civil engineering qualification. So it's all about packaging up the subjects into a really desirable skill set that you can take to a prospective employer. As I said, medicine, it's not direct entry at the University of Melbourne. It is an MD, so the Doctor of Medicine. So a 7-year pathway for the Doctor of Medicine. Our students usually begin their study in a biomedicine or a science program, taking a health science major. One last one that I want to point out there is psychology. Psychology is increasingly popular for students in a lot of the countries I work in, Thailand being one of them, Vietnam as well. Students really finding the subject area, maybe they've taken the subject at high school and they really want to continue some psychology study in their undergraduate degree. So a few options there for which program you can choose. And some students decide they would like to perhaps pursue that professional career. So as you can see, to become a clinical psychologist, we need to see the 6 years of study. But many students are actually taking psychology to be able to use those skills and apply them to another career or another industry. So a really popular one is perhaps students wanting to combine psychology with, say, organisational behaviour, or even perhaps with marketing and advertising and looking at consumer behaviour. So you can study psychology and finish it in the 3 years and still be job ready. It just won't be as a clinical psychologist. That needs that little bit of extra study. Some entry requirements here, just to give you a bit of an idea about what kind of academic performance we're looking for entry into our undergraduate degrees. So the IB scores and the A-level scores, those scores are guaranteed. So if you achieve those scores, on the day that your scores are released. So I know that some students have received their IB scores in the last couple of days. So if you achieved those scores or above those scores, you'll be guaranteed a place at the University of Melbourne. Anyone doing, I suppose, the US high school diploma with the GPA and SAT test scores, these scores are indicative. So it's used as a guide for admission into the bachelor's degrees. Some of the subjects taken in your high school will actually meet the requirements for the English language proficiency. If they don't, there are other English language tests that can be taken to meet the English language requirements. So the most popular one is the IELTS, but there are other tests listed there as well. Just wanted to flag really quickly with you that if you aren't eligible for direct entry into the University of Melbourne, then we do have a pathway program, and it's at Trinity College Foundation Studies. So Trinity College is located on our campus at Parkville. So we don't send you off into the suburbs of Melbourne at 30 or 40 minutes out of town. You will be on our campus right in the heart of the city. Trinity College offers a foundation studies program that prepares our students really, really well for university level study. So our students will take 5 subjects at Trinity. The programs are between 7 and 12 months in duration, and there are guaranteed admission scores for that articulation and pathway into the University of Melbourne. So a few of the Trinity academic entry requirements are listed here. And then once you complete the program and the 5 subjects, you are able to then have guaranteed entry into the University of Melbourne if you're able to meet these minimum scores. So my colleague Crystal Gordon, who works at Trinity College Foundation Studies, is able to meet with you, do a Zoom consult, something like that, if you'd like to find out more information about the Pathway program. But it does provide excellent preparation on our university campus for those students who are not eligible for the direct entry. Just a bit of a reminder about the admissions process for Australian universities. Well, most Australian universities, I take a fairly broad brush to this statement, but I suppose Australian universities do have slightly different admissions process to perhaps the universities in the UK and the USA. So admissions for our universities and for the University of Melbourne, admissions is focused on academic performance. We don't require essays or additional tests, recommendation letters or personal statements. Your admission is based on your final year GPA or IB score or A-level score. And that's also applicable for scholarships. Our scholarships are awarded based on academic merit. So we don't take any of those additional criteria into consideration, no extracurricular activities or anything like that. It really does come down to a focus on academic performance. We do, as I said, we do have a number of scholarships at the University of Melbourne. They are awarded based on academic merit, varying levels of scholarship, 100%, 50%, and some one-off payments of $5,000 and $10,000. So they're the university ones. We also have faculty scholarships, especially for our Bachelor of Commerce and our Bachelor of Arts. And there are some scholarships available from our accommodation providers as well to offset the cost of living rather than the tuition fees. So there's no separate application for a scholarship. You're automatically assessed for a scholarship when you apply for your course, because you provide us with your academic results and your transcript. We're able to make that assessment for admission into the course, but also to see how competitive you are for a scholarship. And one last thing I just wanted to raise is about accommodation. So for many students moving from Thailand to Melbourne, it is something that you will need to consider. And it's important to plan early. You know, some students, we recommend applying for accommodation sometimes before you apply for your course. You don't need to have a course offer in your hand to be able to apply for your accommodation. So it is important to plan really early to I suppose, you know, be prepared and ensure that you have that smooth transition to living in Melbourne. So there are lots and lots of different accommodation providers, some that are right on campus, some that are very close to campus, some that are owned by the university, some that are independent providers, some that have just University of Melbourne students living there, and others that have a mix of students from different universities living there. But a few things that I really urge you to consider when you're thinking about accommodation and perhaps making a short list of providers or facilities that you want to apply for. So having a think about what your budget is, because there are lots of different types of accommodation at varying, I suppose, price points. So thinking about what your budget is a good place to start. Thinking about whether you're going to live in single or shared facilities, because there are accommodation options for both of those. Obviously, the shared facilities would perhaps reduce the living expenses somewhat, rather than having a studio apartment and having your own bathroom and kitchen facilities. Thinking about how close to the campus you want to live. I mean, most of the university accommodation is probably between 5 and 15 minutes walking distance from the campus. But, you know, and that's really great for first year students who are perhaps coming to Melbourne for the first time and making that transition. You know, some of our second and third year students, they may choose to live a little bit further away. They're more familiar with the city, more familiar with public transport, a bit more adventurous. So they're perhaps happy to live a bit further away, pay a little bit less for their accommodation outside of the kind of, you know, very central city location. And that could be an option as well, living a little bit further away. the last thing you really need to consider is what services you want provided. So one of the key differences between our accommodation providers is some provide meals and some you need to cook your own meals. So if you're a bit of a master chef, this might really suit you to be able to go to Victoria Market or the grocery store and buy your fresh produce and cook your own meals. That might really suit you. Other people, may not even be able to open a tin of spaghetti, and you may need to have the meals provided. So some of our residential colleges, they provide 3 meals a day, 7 days a week in kind of a dining hall setting. So you would go into the dining hall and eat with all of the other students. Some of the dining halls look a little bit like Hogwarts. So this image on the screen is of Ormond College, and their dining hall definitely looks a little bit like Hogwarts. So everyone eats their meals in there together. But yeah, look, this is just a bit of a prompt for you to start thinking about, well, what are your preferences and what are the considerations you need to make when it comes to your accommodation. And remember, you really need to plan early. There's no point applying in January before you're about to start your course in February. It's the peak time for international students in Melbourne. So it's really, you may not be able to get your first or even second preference if you're applying late for your accommodation.